feel. I exist in the context of a bombshell. The songs spell over me, hearing cheers as the crowd yells. Authoritarians speak on a pulpit they built well, in a world where your hope comes with the bodies who scream help in a caucus of pure noise. Through stories and pure joy, in a world where there's no choice, I'm committed to your voice. When you finally have 4 points at a cabinet with no coins, victory is an inspiration, it's what you exploit. Tell me now, what's moral to immorality, where everybody works to redistance their own reality? I feel the separation of 2 parts of me actively. Wish for peace and stand for the fight where I know I have to be. I'm 13 in September, 11/30 since October 7th. See children dying in disproportionate measures. They tell me I'm not American, anti-Semitic, arrogant, and laugh at all the bodies, say a 4-year-old's a terrorist. Hallways singing as the songs play, feeling like it's 08, Obama hitting your stage, VP spitting no game. They paling in comparison, Ben and J-Lo splitting up and Ann still in embarrassment. What you got in your character? Freedom need a real cast. Watching all the alphas getting caught to do some real math on how much on that sentence. My kid got some questions, asking 12-year-olds to son him just to teach him a new lesson. Get your pillow, bitch! If it's unity that's really on stage, where's the kufiya? I thought you said you looking for change. They keep pushing you, but ready for endorsements on a range. Even hostage families were like, yo, put them in the game. I see history is made, I see the country being saved. I hear the language of a bomb in every city being raised. I hear the whisper of a song to build a world that we could make. Every building turn to rubble, every missile we create. How you focus that? People walking through the ash. Yes, I know I have to vote, I know we ain't going back, but this feels like we going back. Fascists wanna pull a trap, I can't have a conversation. Every statement turns into a new attack. Just another liberal, what a greedy leftist, single issue voter. You could never pressure Zaid, you're good with genocide. When I was 7, I said I hated when Palestinians died, and then I got suspended. School would tell me that's a hateful lie. How you resolve someone you truly believe in, who hurts when you need them. I hate every season, we all need a reason. I see photos of people who cheering, who screaming. 50 other TikToks who use bodies like branded agreements to block the engagement. They want revolution, or kick out Assad and use some Brianna Wu shit. Is history made? Am I part of the blueprint? They tell me to do it, like what is you doing? If contradiction is my language of music, let them know. Let them know. I don't know how to feel right now. I don't know how to feel right now. Are you scared, inspired, defeated, alive, or whatever I am? I don't know how to feel. Too soon. Thank you guys so much for watching Freestyle the News. If you like what you heard, please down that giant extraterrestrial spacecraft and then walk over to it when your craft also goes to the bottom, and then open up the cockpit and a giant like button comes out and screams at you, and then you just punch it in the face like it wouldn't keep your wife's name out of its fucking mouth. And then leave a comment on your favorite bar. We have a ton of stuff to talk about today and to get through. Like, there's one major story in the week we're obviously going to talk about. But actually, before we start, I just took a shot of this, and I've been taking it for the last couple days. So I drink a lot of pre-workout sometimes. Sometimes I'll drink pre-workout and it'll get my mind racing and everything like that. But usually you should work out after you pre-workout. So I was trying to find something that's not necessarily that just keeps my brain going. And then my manager was like, hey, have you tried this Magic Mind stuff? And so then they shipped me a bunch of these. And I tried it, and I was like, and it was green, so I was just like, I don't know if it's gonna taste good, and it fucking tasted great. It was like fucking orange juice. And I did it when I was streaming the DNC earlier in the week, and it was super great. Like, it got me immediately like dialed in and ready to go. I felt natural, I felt awake, I felt, you know, energetic, and I was like, this is great. And then they're like, hey, by the way, we'll sponsor the show if you want. And I'm like, oh, okay. So yeah, the sponsor of today's show is Magic Mind. Magic Mind is fucking great. I have ADHD, and when you have ADHD, it is very hard to keep focused like on specific tasks, right? My brain goes literally everywhere. And it ends up where I'm procrastinating to get to the last second, and then I get stressed the fuck out in order to do the thing I'm supposed to do. That happened with the Evo album, trying to write a follow-up to Run Back City. So essentially these guys are a mental performance shot, right? They give you 100% of your vitamin C and vitamin D in that bottle, as well as help you think faster, focus better. It's 100% safe. It's not a quick fix. So honestly, it took me a couple days of doing the shot, like 3 to 4 days for it to take full effect. And also it wasn't like a double shot of like coffee, right? I can have this with my coffee. It's an addition to everything I'm doing in the morning, not just something that I have to replace something with. But it does kind of ease off my need for pre-workouts sometimes as a hack to get my mind going, which isn't always the healthiest thing. You get better sleep, you get more energy. Honestly, it's all natural, and it did give me a pep in my step getting through these last few days where so much news was coming out, and we were in the middle of a giant political convention as well. And if you go to magicmind.com/ZedTabani and enter in the code ZED20, that's my name spelled like that, you'll get 48% off. Again, I just asked for a boost on some stuff, and then they offered to sponsor the episode because I like their product. It, like, literally, I was worried looking at it. It's green. Like, what's this gonna taste like? Seriously, just tastes like orange juice. You can mix it in with ice or with sparkling water or however you like. So if you're ADHD like me and looking for a product that can enhance your mood, your energy, and your focus, if you're tired of crash outs from caffeine, and if you're like, hey Zed, your show's cool, I want to support it, go to magicmind.com/ZedTabani, enter in the code ZED20, and get your focus on. Okay, cool. Let's talk about the DNC. That is the one dominating story this week, and after 3 days of streaming that thing, by the way, you can go check out some of the archives except for the last day, I have some thoughts. It was a pretty arresting event for this very unusual election media cycle for all 4 days, particularly because, hey, people didn't even remember to talk about Ben Affleck and J-Lo at all.
I love you, Massachusetts. Everyone is always hating on us, but they just don't get it. Go Sox. Go Jason Tatum. Ben Affleck, hang in there.
Okay. Biggest speeches of the convention were Michelle Obama, who blew the lid off the place, as did Barack. Tim Walz gave an incredible speech on stage with his son Gus's reaction being incredibly heartwarming, and all of the conservative media losing their shit and not having a shred of empathy as they made fun of his expression for some reason, and then got shouted down like they fucking should have. Fuck you, Ann Coulter. Another big moment was the roll call with people like Little John coming out, the California delegation playing Not Like Us and California Love. It felt like a giant dance party. Also, there was a point where they cut to Harris and Walz in Milwaukee, the same venue where they had the RNC, and they filled that motherfucker up just to flex how they can fill up 2 giant arenas in 2 giant cities. But listen, even with those very strong moments and that large viewership, every so often you would see somebody on the guest list and go, why are they here? Some of the choices felt very iffy, like Leon Panetta fucking quoting Reagan. What are you doing? Or Bill Clinton. And I want to say this up front, I streamed this from day 2 to day 4, and I was very complimentary and very supportive of a lot of things that were done. I thought there was a lot of enthusiasm shown. I thought it's a fucking political convention. There are going to be cheesy ass speeches all over the place. So I tried to give points where it was due, and I thought they were doing an incredibly effective job at the DNC. However, there are 2 major moments with a large amount of discussion around them for the last day of this event. Number 1 is the Uncommitted Movement. The Uncommitted Movement is a movement of Palestinian Americans who voted uncommitted in order to voice their opposition to the US's involvement with the genocide in Gaza, particularly Joe Biden's. And listen, now that we have a new candidate, the Uncommitted Movement has been very, very engaged, working with the DNC the whole weekend to try to represent Palestinian voices in the Democratic Party, including organizing panels, speaking with other delegates about platform changes, trying to have other delegates become ceasefire delegates. One of the most significant things, and probably the most important thing they were talking about, was having a Palestinian come on stage to address the crowd, but more specifically, endorse Kamala Harris. Unequivocally endorse her as the best option for Palestinian Americans. Unlike what is being reported by David Frum and Matthew Iglesias, who don't know what the fuck they're talking about, the Uncommitted Movement was not the same as all of the protest movements outside of the DNC. There were multiple different protest movements there. And the Uncommitted Movement have been in talks with the DNC for a while about this. Not just like, oh, they just showed up and it happened. But after weeks, after days of, yeah, we'll just find the right speaker, they were denied. They were just gate-kept out of the main stage, as many people seem to be reporting from sources. Now, this is particularly significant because a family from the hostages who are being held captive in Gaza came on stage and gave their story, which was heartbreaking and moving, and the Uncommitted Movement supported that. One of the hostage family members also voiced their support for the Uncommitted Movement when they were denied a speaker as well. So this isn't an anti-Israel, anti-Jewish kind of thing. This is a bipartisan peace unity thing. But then out of options, doing everything they possibly could, offering up somebody who gave a fairly positive speech about Kamala Harris, right? They staged a sit-in in front of the DNC to try to get people to listen. This was visited by Ilhan Omar, called in by AOC, Cori Bush. Dozens of people joined this sit-in. Tons of press documenting it. Meanwhile, dozens of Democratic officials, lawmakers, chair members, the fucking UAW, all pushed for them to just get 2 minutes, like a 2-minute slot, which was possible. Didn't happen. They were offered a meeting with staffers. They were offered a private meeting with Kamala Harris as well. They put that down. They wanted to have somebody on stage. And that is important because of the symbolism of it all. Just very quickly letting you know, political conventions are just symbolism. They're just symbolism for 3 days. They are giant advertising and symbolism, and that would go a significant way to showing that, hey, Palestinian Americans are part of this coalition. It would help enhance the entire Democratic platform from every political perspective. As somebody who knows marketing and politics, that would have been a home fucking run. Still denied. And listen, despite what you will hear from accelerationists and idiots like David Frum and Matt Iglesias, this was played masterfully by the Uncommitted Movement and looked horrible for the DNC. But still, after the deadline passed, Ruah from Georgia, one of the uncommitted delegates who had written the speech, who they had put up to give the speech endorsing Harris, gave her unity speech to a press pool, went back inside with all of the other uncommitted delegates, all holding hands, re-entering the venue, and were greeted by tons of supportive Democratic officials in an incredible show of solidarity. But then came the big one, when Kamala Harris came to speak. Obviously, the most anticipated moment of this whole event, next to Beyonce not showing up. But it was good. An otherwise soaring, powerful, inspiring speech at one point felt very cutting.
As Commander-in-Chief, I will ensure America always has the strongest, most lethal fighting force in the world. Let me be clear. I will always stand up for Israel's right to defend itself, and I will always ensure Israel has the ability to defend itself, because the people of Israel must never again face the horror that a terrorist organization called Hamas caused on October 7, including unspeakable sexual violence and the massacre of young people at a music festival. At the same time, what has happened in Gaza over the past 10 months is devastating. So many innocent lives lost. Desperate, hungry people fleeing for safety over and over again. The scale of suffering is heartbreaking. President Biden and I are working to end this war such that Israel is secure, the hostages are released, the suffering in Gaza ends, and the Palestinian people can realize their right to dignity, security, freedom, and self-determination.
You can already guess how some of that was received or feel it. The internet, which was essentially overflowing with enthusiasm and support and anticipation for Harris, looks like that Community meme where Donald Glover walks in and everything's on fucking fire and Jeff Winger is like twirling a leg with fire on it. Listen, Harris's speech had undertones of joy, but were very aggressive towards Trump in a good way. But there were points where she was incredibly hawkish. The military line, and more specifically, the Palestine line, have sparked widespread backlash and genuine fear. There is an acknowledgement of her addressing the issues, but many commentators were furious and honestly felt betrayed. Hasanabi saying it meant more of the same, that nothing would fundamentally change. Many people on TikTok stating Harris once again used the same language that the Biden administration has done and doubled down on Israel in a way that says she will keep funding this genocide, saying that yes, she wants peace for the Palestinian people, but in the long term, she will keep funding Israel as it does these kind of things, which was untenable for many people, specifically with how strongly she stated it. If it upsets you that this is the takeaway that a lot of the leftists and activists are getting from this speech, let me let you know, as somebody who thinks Kamala Harris is an exceptional candidate and had some very strong moments in her speech and this convention, those people upset aren't wrong. Listen, Harris's speech seems to have had an opposite effect of the Walls pick for the vice president. It's like a mirror. This time it energized the liberal base to a zenith and gave her incredible momentum, putting to rest any doubts of her candidacy to the median voter, while feeling like a slap in the face and exclusionary to the lefter sides of the political spectrum. I cannot stress this enough. You don't need to turn away one core group of your audience to appease another. There is a way to have broad consensus. There's a way to do it. And love it or hate it, it blunted a ton of momentum for dozens of activists and Palestinian Americans very quickly. And before you say, well, they'll never be happy, this was nothing, they're just moving the goalposts. This is a political miscalculation. Kamala Harris, for months, has billed herself as the voice of the people, but in that speech emphasized one side of the party spectrum. And yes, while her words did try to toe that line, many who were excited to vote for her, watching her trying to build a broad coalition, felt genuinely hurt. Reasonably, in dismissing that is not good for her candidacy. Honestly, I don't even think her advisors right now are going to dismiss that. So you shouldn't either. But why? Why are people getting this takeaway? Let's start with why I think it happened, why she did what she did in that speech, and what it means for the broader election that's coming up. First off, the section about Palestine was her trying to toe a line as best she could between camps on the issue. And if you're focusing on the words, even if they are things that Biden has said in the past, those words could have been good enough, but the execution was incredibly poor. I've been saying this for a while. Whoever wrote that speech doesn't understand the depth of the specifics of the public optics that they're working with. It was top-loaded with a ton of language meant to assuage the more pro-Israel side of the base of the party before ending on Palestinian self-determination, which has been used before in speeches. Yeah, I get it. Listen, I'm not happy with it. But optics-wise, it was supposed to signal solidarity with Palestinians while not turning off the Israeli wing. It didn't. Here's the thing, and you can go back and watch this if you want. If you were to flip those two sessions of the speech, put the Palestinians' acknowledgement of what's going on with them, and then have the whole Israeli thing, right? It would have come off way better. I'm not saying it's perfect, but it would have been way better received because A, you immediately acknowledge the suffering first, which assuages your biggest critics, especially after the Uncommitted Movement was upset at the way you treated them. And they were upset. Doesn't matter if you think they're right or not, they had leverage. Media-wise, it didn't look good. But you follow that with reaffirming the Israel relationship, but it frames it in a way where the priority is Palestinian lives in the context of this Israel relationship and not the other way around. And again, do not conflate the Uncommitted Movement with all Palestinian protest movements, right? These guys were working within the system. They were doing exactly what they were supposed to in order to voice their displeasure, right? And they genuinely felt hurt. People with family and people in Gaza from Palestine felt unheard. And again, I'm not excusing any propagandizing or hawkishness. By the way, a lot of people are very upset at the most lethal army in the world line. I did a little bit of research. It seems that that line is just kind of a pablum phrase that's been used over time. It wasn't something that Harris specifically came up with. It's a generic phrase, which makes me think that it won't be as enforced. Still, not a good look with how much she emphasized it and how much people aren't as familiar with that phrase from a younger generation, sensing a pattern with the lack of understanding of what's current. But why was Harris so hawkish? Why did she go from the politics of joy to a Republican light? Are Democrats just super right-wing now? And before I hear another duopoly essay in the comments, which, by the way, you don't have to do that to me, all right? You can just write me something short. Listen, I think it's important to identify incentives. You know, it can't just be, we all want war. That doesn't really track with every past statement Harris has made. And there are strategic reasons why conventions do what they do. And it's hard to see in the moment, but after all 4 days, I kind of get the picture. I don't necessarily think it's just meant to attract Republican voters. I think that's a simplistic view of it. A lot of Kamala's points, from the bipartisan yet very draconian border bill, to the lethal fighting force line, to the Israel relationship line, to the line about the economy, were meant for one thing: to cut off attack strategy lines from Donald Trump. Like, directly. They were counterpunches. The entire convention seemed built not as an enthusiasm boost for Harris. That was there, but that wasn't the focus. But an attack on Donald Trump's entire strategic messaging platform when he's already struggling, which is different from what Biden tried to do. Biden's convention was, hey, you're a Republican, do the right thing for America, for the country. That was there, but this was more about, this guy has nothing on me and doesn't know anything about me. Every single discrepancy Trump was developing on Harris are now in 4K, with her giving a speech undercutting all of them. She's soft on the border. Look at her talk about the border emphatically. She's weak as a woman representing the US. Here's her shit-talking Kim Jong-un and boosting about the military. She's actually anti-Israel, which is a huge attack Trump launched at her. And guess what? Here she is affirming her stance in a very, very significant soundbite that's going to be shared everywhere for the next few days. It is a block that will incredibly hurt his messaging leading into a debate, because going nuh-uh doesn't really do much. It's going to hurt him drastically, but also at the price of broad enthusiasm, which Harris built over the last few weeks. And I don't know if that's a good idea long term. Listen, everything in Harris's record suggests a willingness to adapt to shifting opinions and empathy. But again, that signal that she made in that speech is terrifying to more left-leaning or leftward and leftist voters, anti-war voters, and they're not nothing. They're like a big part of the party. But you can see how the counterpunch was working. Trump and Fox were fucking losing their shit because now they have to rework their messaging. And even Friday morning, shit was not hitting well with Trump. He looked like a fucking loser, even with RFK endorsing him. And if that was the goal, look, that was a success. The result of this convention really did electorally show the strength of the party to the median voter. For me personally, the hawkishness I have issues with, right? I mean, like, I'm disappointed by the Palestine-Israel statements. I feel like I'm 13 again, and it's the war in Iraq. I feel like I'm 18 again, and I'm hearing about drone strikes, about people dying in Iraq. You know, while I think Obama's a great president, but at the same, I can't, those are things that I have to resolve in my head that fucking hit me, man. I can't like act like it's not a thing. But even with that dissonance, even with that hurt, even if I do still believe to some extent that, okay, this is political posturing, I do believe that. I know Hassan is probably not going to like me, which sucks because he met Phil and they seem like friends, and I wish I was invited. As pained as I am as what that signals to many Palestinian activists, I am specifically worried about accelerationists and disengagement farmers. That fucking terrifies me. This speech gave every accelerationist who like really fetishizes revolution ammo on how to disengage with the system in a way that is not effective, and depressed a lot of enthusiasm. Like I said, that means that less headlines over index. That means less meme and social chatter in public spaces. That means less support for reform of this party. The people I fucking hate reading shit from are saying everything I hate about disengagement from the process. And honestly, they have a right to feel hurt and feel like that's what's going on and feel unheard. Because even if you support the Harris campaign, it's not about coddling these people. It's about being effective at messaging in a way that brings them to your side. And there was a way to do it. Look at the last 6 weeks. There is a giant change after that speech. And that's not the only speech Harris has given. I still think that cynicism and reacting like all of this is hopeless, nothing will ever work, is wrong. Idiots like Jill Stein will take people's votes while also supporting genocide. And if you think that's a talking point, you can tell my fucking Syrian friends who watched her publicly say, I want to work with Bashar al-Assad while their family members were dying. Fuck you, Jill Stein. You'll have people build duopoly messaging, but not understand how to effectively build a coalition to fight the two-party system. It's possible. It just has to be done effectively. But we're not there yet. That is not what this system is at right now. And then you will have another razor-thin Senate and House margin where any progressive ideas feel out of reach and people fetishize revolution again at the expense of people. Kamala Harris has established herself as a capable, smart, and engaged candidate. The Democratic National Committee has established itself as a fucking corporation business, misunderstanding how to engage in any significant way. I'm just saying establishment politics aren't great all the time. My feeling is there needs to be significantly more outreach in what is now an uphill battle to let people know in Muslim communities and other communities. That's what you just have to do as a candidate, but you have to do it more now to let people know they are heard in a way that's not just pandering. That's politics. That's how it works. Because Trump is going to be scrambling. Like, he's scrambling. I don't think fighting for Gaza and a ceasefire and pushing Kamala is over. It can't be over. This is not about what's over and what's not. It's about what do we do to push. There are movements that got significant things done over the last 3 weeks. There are movements that can still put, like, she's still running. It's not like she's like, oh, everything's just given. No, it's not a coronation. She still has liabilities. It's still going to be hard. She's still going to have to work and move. There's a way to bend the DNC into realizing they suck at their job. You know how everybody talks about protests and what's effective protest and what isn't effective protest? It's very easy for a big corporate, like, giant machine to go, hey, those people protesting are unreasonable and they have crazy demands and this is so stupid. Look at how ridiculous and overly emotional they are. Protest movements who actively counteract that one fucking playbook line, which has been used to death, win. Because if you make the people in power seem unreasonable to a point where it starts to hurt their optics, which is the way politicians get all their fucking money, is just optics, they suddenly have to move around or sink with the ship. The uncommitted delegates won that fight, and even if you think Democrats don't care, it doesn't fucking matter if they don't care. There is a ton of bad press going around, specifically that movement. It soured a majority of the night for a lot of people. That's not nothing. And right now there is a staffer who is saying like, no, it's fine, who doesn't believe that. And I'm gonna bring up this last example. A lot of you people know that I work in fighting games and esports, right? Okay, much of the time when you're watching a fighting game, you think it's just, hey, can this guy hit the other person? When you're playing like, hey, I just want to hit you, or I want to block all your hits. That's the simple game you think it is, right? Who can hit who can block who? There's a thing in the middle of the screen where you're both going in and out of each other's range and seeing who can throw out a punch and hit the other person if they walk into range. Well, after you play for a while, there's a third option called whiff punishing, where you walk into range, then walk out, the other guy throws out a move, but his move is still recovering and you hit him while it's still recovering because he's overexposed and he's weak. If you like Kamala Harris, now is the time to whiff punish that campaign. The people who are upset by this speech aren't your enemy. They're not all third-party voters. They understand the stakes of this election. They're not trying to throw away their vote, right? There are dozens who want to vote for Kamala Harris, who want to enthusiastically go support her, go canvass for her, do everything they can, which is not nothing. There's a reasonable way for her to do that. Do more to recognize the uncommitted movement. Tweet Harris wins, but also tweet her losses about how the administration needs to do better than just giving lip service about a ceasefire it feels like they don't give a fuck about. Trump does not look strong. We are not on the back foot here, right? You're not fucking up the race, all right? You're trying to say, hey, why don't you pull right here so that other car can't get in and that way we'll have a better chance of moving ahead. I don't think Hasanabi is wrong. I don't think liberals are wrong in thinking that there were inspiring moments in that speech. I think you shouldn't quote Reagan in a DNC speech, and I don't think anybody upset or hurt that their voice as a Palestinian wasn't heard is wrong either. We are all on the same team. I'm not trying to be all fucking kumbaya when I say this. I'm fucking angry when I say this. It's literally, we're the same fucking team, all right? Okay? If fucking a bunch of NBA players who all talk shit all the time, right, and have completely different views of how to be good at fucking basketball, right? If all of them can shut the fuck up and have some of the most harrowing moments, there's no reason we can't shut the fuck up for a minute and actually try to get some common goals done. That's literally how any of this works. And I think people who are trying to advocate for their families who are dying in a genocide don't deserve to have dipshits cover their fucking ears and deserve to be heard. Because when we are heard, we win. That's our show. I am sure this is probably going to upset some people. I am sorry if I did that. But stop discounting opinions. This isn't nothing. Don't plug your ears and do the whole like, oh, Biden is an old thing. No, people are hurt. Help them out. If we're the coalition of people who bring each other up, let's bring each other up and let's actually say, hey, this is something that is important to us. But that's our show. Thank you so much for watching. Love y'all. Let me know what you think in the comments. Next week, I have a giant, crazy collab that I can't even tell you about, but I'm excited to do. So look out for that on Thursday or so. But anyway, my name is Tabani. Thank you guys so much for watching. I'll see y'all soon. Let's go.